music's also just music.
Oh, I know.
Like, there's a certain way that once something's created, it takes on a life of its own,
Right.
and you absolutely want the artist to be supported throughout that whole process. But it's almost worse for the art if it can't have a life of its own.
Oh, I know.
Alright, we are live on Facebook.
All right.
So we usually just give like 10 minutes or so of
Us, me reading. Or... yeah, my belt is really gone. I cannot find it. But it's okay because I just got a text from my phone that says, "Expect a package to arrive on Wednesday." This is really good coffee.
Yeah, it smelled good. Here's your favorite.
He doesn't like the song. It's a little too pensive.
I like another one. But it does picture you well, perfectly, sitting there with a book.
Mm-hmm. It's supposed to rain all afternoon.
I think so. Something like that.
Looking like it.
Considering going on a run later. I had 2 pieces of pie for breakfast today, so I should probably go on a run later.
That's awesome.
We get given a lot of things to eat in the rectory, and often they're not healthy. But also, there's like no way that he and I could reasonably eat 2 pieces of pie as actual dessert. So sometimes they just take the place of actual meals. And
Okay.
we have a whole we were given yesterday as part of. So our parish is Good Shepherd,
Yeah.
and we're gonna get totally taken down for that.
Yep, I think it was
Less than 7 seconds.
less than 7 seconds.
Okay. But we're Good Shepherd Parish, and yesterday was Good Shepherd Sunday, the reading, and so our parishioners celebrated Good Shepherd and actually had a whole parade for us. And it was very cool.
It was lovely.
It was
That is cool.
beautiful. But we were given many things to eat. Among them were one person gave us 2 pies that need to be eaten within like 4 or 5 days.
So get
2
to it.
pies
Right.
for 2
Nice
men.
pie?
It's tempting.
Oh man. What?
Good catch, Mel.
What was that?
See, of course you played Star Wars. Today is May the 4th. But we can...
I don't know what the big deal is. I always refer to this day as a vigil of my birthday.
Right. For the Revenge of the 5th.
Nice.
I think it's just hilarious, though. We'll talk about it.
What?
The whole this whole May the 4th thing. Because it's totally ridiculous.
Oh, it's absolutely.
But I think it just kind of something that happened just kind of naturally and just kind of that word of mouth thing. And here's a funny play on words joke thing.
Exactly, and then it
it's-
became a thing.
And I think like Disney has like they're releasing the thing. I mean,
They
it's
are.
become like Star
Yeah,
Wars.
today
thing.
is the day that they're releasing the new one on 4K on.
Uh-huh.
Mhm. I shall go back.
I'm so glad to hear that.
I'm gonna leave it after.
Now I've done it.
What?
Leaving and not return.
Dun, dun, dun. Bum, 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 bum.
Morning, everybody. We'll be getting started in just a minute. to use the restroom, and then we'll get started.
Oh, it's a second camera. Do you need? Yeah, totally. Oh, good. I actually don't like using that Photokin lenses, so.
Oh, we never talked about the 3 songs you wanted to do. Did you ever figure that out?
No, I can figure it out.
3 songs you want to do?
Mm-hmm. Okay, it will either be Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Bohemian Rhapsody, or Billie Jean.
All right, cool. All right, well, welcome everybody.
Thank you so much for joining
Thank
us
you.
today. We are now just beginning. There we go.
Yeah, it is our happy Star Wars Day to y'all out there. How did Star Wars Day get started? Well, it's kind of a silly thing. I don't know exactly how it got started, but
Neither do I.
I think someone just said May the 4th, and then they just realized, oh,
Wait a minute.
May the 4th be with you.
Maybe May the 4th. Maybe someone had a lisp.
Maybe
at
has-
one point. Yeah.
Maybe they're Castilian.
No, come on. You, sir, have no right to speak.
So I have my I Am Your Father shirt on just temporarily here.
Mhm.
This was given to me by Sarah Book here. She said it's the best gift she's ever given, so I wanted to
Wow.
honor Sarah.
That is a big claim right there.
Well, yes. Well, I think that's what she said. She said she's not even a Star Wars fan, but I was there for her daughter's confirmation,
Mm-hmm.
and which was on May the 4th. It must have been 2017, 2016. She's a senior now, and she had this bag for me, and she said, "Here, I can't wait to give it." She's not even a Star Wars fan. That's
Oh,
what.
that's amazing.
That's what made her. She was so proud of herself. 'Cause She knew
Okay.
I was a Star Wars.
You know what
fan.
I love about the shirt? The quote is actually right. Because most people say, Luke, I am your father.
Right.
But it's actually no Luke, comma.
right.
I am your father. Yeah.
Well, and it is. I have to say, it's pretty darn clever, and I feel pretty good about wearing this shirt where I am your father. So there you go, Sarah. Happy Star Wars Day.
Speaking of silly shirts that have to do with fathers, so my family on my ordination got had a few different shirts made, and many of my nieces, nephews, siblings, and whatnot all had a shirt that said, "My brother is cooler than yours is," and then on the back it said, "He's my father."
Oh.
And then it said, "My uncle is cooler than yours is," and on the back, "He's my father," because the fatherhood of the priesthood.
Yes.
But
right.
then, that is the humor of my family.
That's good.
What was absolutely hilarious is my sister put a picture of this online of her shirt, and it said, "My brother's cooler than yours. He's my father," and somebody posted under hers. She's like, "Sam, I don't know what this means, but I'm concerned."
I love it. We also are drinking out of our Star Wars cups. I've got my Chewbacca here, and Father Ashmore's got a Rogue One there.
Mm-hmm.
And then my sister gave me this blanket several years ago. See, it's Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
But we've also got a special guest. We never have anybody with us here, but
It's true.
We have a photographer with us today. So Jay, come on, Jay, right?
Yes, sir. Yes,
So-
Father. Hey, guys.
So he's photographing for the 11. So I thought maybe it'd be a little bit too much to have all the Star Wars stuff everywhere. So thought we'd clear out that a little bit because of the
What?
Very good.
I
Well,
missed it.
we're on the delay there. I was watching Jay
Oh,
wave. So, welcome, and happy to have you here for May the 4th. I want to mention these beautiful crochet Star Wars things that my mom has made for me. So these are hanging out here. I've got my favorite characters, Boba Fett, and I got Darth Vader and Stormtroopers. It's interesting that they're all villains, I
your
guess.
favorite character is Boba Fett.
Yes.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Even though he dies in an absolutely pathetic way. I'm sorry. We shouldn't.
he does, but he survives.
Does he survive?
That's what the comic books say.
Oh, I never read any of the comics.
Yeah, well,
I'm not that much of a nerd.
I was pretty nerdy back in high school, but anyway. But
how did he survive?
he's got a jetpack.
Well, but he was eaten by a big snake thing.
It takes 1,000 years to digest him.
Right.
Slowly digested over the course of 1,000 years, says C-3PO.
Mm-hmm.
So he fixes jetpack, flies back out. I think. I don't know, but that makes sense to me.
Wow.
I mean,
This makes the creature.
Jonah got swallowed by a whale, right?
Right.
Or a big fish, anyway.
Big fish.
And so he survived.
Mm-hmm. By a miracle of God.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, even if something gets swallowed like whole, they can survive in there for a while, I think.
I would presume so. I've never been eaten alive. It doesn't seem very pleasant, first of all. So I'd want to get out. I suppose it's possible, but I've never considered this factor. I'm very upset by this. This totally destroys my whole conception of this character. In a good way, but also in a disconcerting way.
I see. Well, yes, it was a very disappointing because I totally concur that was a wimpy way for him to go. He gets knocked accidentally and falls down a pit. Yeah,
it was not much.
It was ridiculous back, but whatever.
Yeah.
It's just Star Wars.
And the other thing was they didn't need to kill him.
They didn't. It was stupid.
He could have. Yeah,
It was stupid.
He could've done that.
I'm with you wholeheartedly. It was ridiculous, but whatever. It's just a movie.
It's true.
And dumb movies at that. I have a theory, that there's actually. I mean, I like Star Wars, obviously, but they're dumb movies, so I don't get too wrapped up about them too much. But because I think that sometimes people think that they are better movies than they actually are, or whatever. And there was arguably one or two really good movies. Empire Strikes Back is really good. I think really good cinema.
Yeah.
Star Wars is pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
The rest of them are. I wouldn't categorize any of them bordering on really good cinema.
I don't know about that. Perhaps. I would say you're right about those two. Those are two of the clearly the best. I still think Return of the Jedi is a lot better than what people give it.
I mean, obviously, I like all of the movies.
And then 3 is okay. Like as a cinema, 3 is pretty good as cinema. Not great. Rogue One really knocks it out of the park as cinema.
It's a great movie.
It's fantastic.
They're great movies, but I wouldn't. They're not Academy Award winners.
Yeah, you're right. They're people pleasers.
They're people pleasers, yes.
Mm-hmm.
So if people expect them to be these great, amazing Greek tragedies or whatever, I don't know. But
people do overinterpret things. So sometimes this is a criticism of Bishop Robert Barron. Now, I love Bishop Barron, so this is a criticism of one thing he does, not anything else. Sometimes he'll overinterpret movies, and every time you turn around, because he likes to do these film reviews, every time you turn around, he's talking about another Christ figure in a movie, and it's like, okay, Bishop Aaron,
right,
you can make anybody into a Christ figure if you try hard enough. Sometimes you can just say, oh, it's a pagan movie. Like, I grant that all things in a certain way can be interpreted through the lens of Christ. I totally grant that. But sometimes that's not the cosmology. That's not the eschatology. That's just this person was telling a good story, and you can see a little elements of it, but it can be trying too hard. And sometimes people do that. Like, they were so upset because now, mind you, I think there's some merit to all these arguments, but I know some people who see Jedi as priest figures, and then when the Jedi, certain things are revealed about them that may not be as light, as clear in the cosmology of them being priest-like figures, they totally think the whole series has been destroyed, and okay, maybe that image has been destroyed now, but let's be honest, they never were priests in the first place.
Right.
Jedi Council was not the bishops, rota or anything like that.
Well, I think that was part of the problem with the prequels. I like the prequels. A lot of people don't, but I like them. But but I think that's part of the problem with just the characters of the Jedi that they created, right? Is they're kind of boring monk figures, and it's like seeing them stand around all the time in like and like very calm emotions or whatever. Not good cinema does that make. Just to quote Yoda. Good cinema, it is not.
It is interesting though to see how so we can dive into these films and any film. So this is not me trying to be Bishop Robert Barron here, but this is me trying to just look to see different moral issues. Like the downfall of the Jedi in many ways are that they embrace stoicism too much.
Oh, okay.
In the first 3 films, you think about that because they don't teach Anakin how to deal with his emotions.
Right.
He suppresses his emotions, and then it comes out, and he, just tries to destroy the whole universe.
Right.
But throughout that whole thing, they don't teach. So some people could look at that and see the first 3 films as some argument against celibacy, because the Jedi seem to be celibate figures.
Sure.
But what the problem is not the celibacy. The problem is that they never teach their young truly how to handle those emotions.
That's good.
At least they didn't do it in
Anakin's case. Yeah.
In Anakin's case. About the other ones, I'm not so sure. Maybe the other Sith leaders, that's what happened. Think about that.
Yeah.
So, and
very
what is
good
Stoicism?
analysis.
I guess I should explain what Stoicism is. Stoicism is an ancient Roman philosophy in which a general suppression of emotions in order to do what's called empathia, I think it is, which is to have no passions whatsoever. That at all times we should have this lack of emotional zeal in a certain way, and that was considered the moral state when we're not working from our passions, we're working from merely our intellect. What's beautiful about Christian anthropology, though, is that we do say that there should be a certain way that our emotions are not controlling us, but that our emotions can influence us, and that our emotions in themselves can be virtuous. And that's fascinating because most people, and like deontology, which is the moral system.
What was that again?
Deontology.
Deontology.
Which is the moral system of Immanuel Kant, who's a philosopher. He believed that we should only work out of oughts. This idea of like, I should do this, therefore I do it. It's only moral if I'm working because it's something I'm being told to do it, essentially. I ought to do this. And a lot of it, the way we speak,
sure,
is how we do this.
Is Kantian.
This is exactly. Think about why should I defend the United States? I ought to. I ought to do so because it's my people.
My duty.
It's my duty. My duty, exactly. So there's not necessarily that's not necessarily bad language, but it just isn't as full. As true Christian anthropology says that our passions, when they're integrated in who we are, can lead us to the truth if they're directed by reason. So when we are angry about something, that's not necessarily bad or good. It's just anger. And if it's truly integrated with who we are, and it's truly subjected to reason when we're angry, then that's actually a pointer that there's some injustice going on. So our anger is oriented to something good. Isn't that beautiful?
It is, yeah.
Or like the love between a husband and a wife. When it's oriented towards each other, that love is very good. You don't have to sit here and be like, darling, we have good life together. I have no passion for you whatsoever, but we have a good life together. That's stupid. Nobody would ever say that. No husband would ever want his wife to say that. No wife would ever want her husband to say, we make a good house together. This is good because we do good things.
Well, it reminds me of like that Fiddler on the Roof movie, or the musical, where "Do You Love Me?" That song from Fiddler on the Roof. Well, I've for 36 years or whatever, I've cooked your food or whatever. It's like, why are we even talking about love at this point in time? It's a great scene. It's kind of comical and, but yeah, it's not just utilitarian or whatever. So.
Precisely.
Yeah.
So
how are y'all doing? We got all off onto deontology, and it was great. Star Wars and whatever. So happy Star Wars Day. How are y'all doing? What are you doing with your time? We are your community in the distance here in this Facebook in this Fireside chat. So. If you got any questions, we can continue our conversation also with this ought and what we want to do. But I want to make sure that we take a pause and make sure you can ask your questions, share your thoughts. Also, before we get too far afield, I want to it
is that time.
Well, it's not the time when you probably think it is. it's the time to make sure that Father Greg feels included here. Father Greg has his show on Fridays. I believe it's at 9:30. It's called
Being with God.
Being with God. That's a beautiful name, isn't it? The most clever name you've ever heard, right?
I crushed it once, I'll crush it again.
I crush your head. But anyway, so here's our Father Greg, and now you were talking in the homily briefly today about the bishops. If Father Greg ever became a bishop, he would have a motto, right?
Right. So most bishops, I think all bishops, when they are ordained, when they're consecrated bishop, they get a crest, a coat of arms, and on the bottom is normally a motto. So the motto of Archbishop Naumann is Vitae Victoria Erit, which means life, the victory will be to life, which shows his pro-life commitment. Father Greg and I were talking at one point, and he told me that his motto would be from our first reading today, which is
Get up, slaughter, and eat. So there we go. There is his head with a mitre on it, and his episcopal motto: Get up, slaughter, and eat. So there you go, Father Greg. Being with God, get up, slaughter, and eat. So there we go. So what you gonna do about that there, Father Greg? All right, so we got that. And then before we get also too far afield, let me do my little thing. Say hi to my nieces. Let's see here. I need to put blank here. Hello there, Rachel. Hello there, Rosalie. Hello there, Laura. How are you? Did you see all my little Star Wars figures here? There's Boba Fett and Darth Vader. And a stormtrooper, or a clone trooper, depending on how you're counting. These are made by Grandma, so I'm happy to have them there. And hello, Dryling girls, if you're watching. Hope you're enjoying the show and hope you're enjoying your day. So, very good. And now we will go back to the show. So, have a good day. All right. So there is that. Now, we think we've done enough. And also, you discovered something here as well.
Oh, yes.
And so we want to put a little vote out as we maybe have some other conversation.
Right. So I discovered some of the highest art I've ever found. It's truly majestic, glorious, any other adjective you possibly could find. It is this. And I want to give to a vote to see what we shall read today of these fantastic pieces of art. So these are famous pop songs written as classic sonnets. So at the end of this, we will, the end of one of our last things we'll do today is
we'll
read
go
a sonnet.
To the ash cam, and Father Ashmore will read a sonnet based on one of these three songs, depending on your comments in the commentary. Right. We will select whatever we can see gets the most conversation.
So the first option is The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
The second is Bohemian Rhapsody. And the third is Billie Jean. One of those three songs.
Billie Jean and
Bohemian Rhapsody.
Mm-hmm. It's done in the style of a
classic
Shakespearean sonnet. Wow, there's some
windy
wind
out
here.
Mm-hmm.
So
the wind moves as it wills. You hear its voice.
It's hailing. Oh
is it hailing?
I don't know. So those are your three choices: The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Billie Jean, and Bohemian Rhapsody. What would you like to hear Father Ashmore read as a Shakespearean style sonnet? Mm-hmm. Those are your three options. Go ahead and run those. Wow. Put your votes in there. It's a good thing my windows are open upstairs. So that's good. Yes, and then someone also was mentioning here the parade that we had yesterday was beautiful. Thank you so much.
Very beautiful. Thank you so much. It was very touching
parade, and I have
an image.
I do have an image.
Good,
I thought I had an image. Oh, I put it. I know what I did.
Okay. But if you are not aware, there was a priest appreciation parade done by some of our parishioners yesterday. So yesterday was Good Shepherd Sunday, which is the fourth Sunday of Easter, in which we read the Good Shepherd Gospel passage. And because of that, we're both Good Shepherd Parish, and Father Kent and I strive to be good shepherds.
We do.
I think some of our people decided to have a little parade for us, and it was really beautiful.
It was really
first of all,
lovely.
thank you so much.
Yep. I had a picture let's see. There's a picture. It's giving me a question mark though, so this might not show up as anything. So that's weird. I copied and pasted.
Is it not showing up anymore?
I don't know.
Oh,
I've got
weird.
this question mark.
Yep,
So
I don't know why.
yeah, isn't that strange?
You do everything over there. I just let the magic happen.
Yeah, yeah. So we'll go back to blank. I don't know what happened there. Let me see if it on the delay if it picked it up.
I don't think it did.
No, just
No.
does this question there. Oh,
What is that?
we're getting a bunch of votes for Bohemian Rhapsody, so that's good.
Okay. Move on.
Billie Jean, Fresh Prince. Okay, we got. All right, very good. Keep those votes coming. We will consider that, and then we will have a reading of that by Father Ashmore towards the end of the show. So stay tuned. So, and don't forget, today is May the 4th. So May the 4th be with you. Tomorrow is the Revenge of the 5th. So, and it's also the solemnity of the birth of Nicholas Ashmore. So
This is true.
don't forget that it's his birthday tomorrow.
You really don't need. Yeah. Just pray for me. That's most important.
Well, yes, and send him cards and love. And how old are you now going to be? How old are you now? How old are you today?
I am 26 years old.
How old are you be tomorrow?
27
Very
years
good.
old.
So 27. He turns 27 tomorrow. So that is that's a major year.
Exactly. When I was 7 and 20, my father said to me,
So tomorrow. So this is the vigil of the birth of Nicholas Ashmore. So now does that mean? So is it a feast? Is it a feast? A solemnity? Is it bake? Should we have a whole thing of bacon? A plate of bacon
on
tomorrow?
the side. It could be like a greater double feast. Like even higher than a solemnity, greater double.
Yeah. Okay.
We'll see. There might be an octave.
We forgot to start the novena though.
Well, yeah, this is true. This is true. Next year.
Although we kind of set it up by talking about it a lot last week.
Yeah. It's.
The
Oh my.
For the sake of his sorrowful. Oh, also, so I didn't get it. I'll see if I can pull up another picture from that. I don't know why that wasn't registering, but this came. We got some coffee also during the parade, so that's what we were drinking today. Sometimes people ask what we are drinking each day, so
This is tasty.
it's really good.
You know, at
I'll
first
go
when I
back
saw
to
the
the
McDonald's,
camera.
I was kind of like, oh, okay, this will be a nice little brew. This is actually pretty tasty.
It is
brew.
really tasty. Really tasty. I'm gonna go back to the Ocamerer so you can see it.
It's got some notes of cherry, boysenberry.
So the McCafe Premium Roast, quite tasty. So thank you to the
I believe it was the prices.
the prices.
wasn't it?
Yes, it was the prices.
If I'm wrong about that, I'm sorry.
So-
But I'm 90% positive it's the prices.
There we go.
As we sit here in this moment.
So if we got the name wrong, we apologize. But we think we were such great generosity, such very nice notes. We haven't actually opened everything yet.
We're gonna
but-
go and do that. We'll lay them all out and
Yeah, we'll take a nice
order them
picture or
all,
something.
So,
So it was very beautiful. Someone else. That wasn't the same bag, was it? With the, you know which ones is it?
yeah, exactly. We got a card, and it was the prices who said there are a few things for here to be shared, but some of them are for each person only. You know which ones they are, and some of those things that were for each person individually there was some Taco Bell hot sauce for me, and what was it for you? That was
Cheez-Its.
Cheez-Its.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So people have been listening and watching. So hot sauce and seasoning, I believe.
Oh, there was seasoning too. Taco.
So
That's exactly right.
Taco Bell. Yeah, very good. So yes, I'll see if I can pull up another video or another picture from that parade. It was lovely. We have a question. I think we've answered this before about our names. Someone was asking why I go by Father Kent and why you go by Father Ashmore. Did we talk about?
I don't have a first name. That's why.
That's right.
Yeah.
Just a matter of personal preference, I think, is basically the idea.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Never mind. So I usually just go by Father Kent. I find it shorter than Father O'Connor. That seems long and formal. So I just prefer Father Kent. And
Father Ashmore. So my first name is Nicholas, and when you say Father Nicholas, that is one Father Nicholas. That's 5 syllables, which means that people will try to shorten it to
They
Father
will.
Nick.
and they do.
And they do. And I'm not a Nick. I don't go by Nick. I never really have. I went by Nick a little bit in high school, but that's because my friends, they called me Nick Ashmore often, sometimes in high school. But overall, I've always been Nicholas. And so I just decided to nip that in the bud and go by Father Ashmore.
Yep.
And it's kind of a British sound to it that I quite like. Father Ashmore. I was speaking to the vicar the other day. So. And it's a personal preference thing. So traditionally, monks and religious would go by their first name because that's the name that they took when they were when they made their promises, made their vows. And diocesan priests would traditionally go by their last name, and that was just the tradition of the church. It's not a strong tradition. It's just what had been customary in the United States, and so you'll find some areas like St. Louis, where I went to school. It's really generally uncommon to have priests go by their first name. It's far more common in St. Louis to go by the last name. So it's partly just my training. Yeah. It's also a good way to set boundaries too, because sometimes there can be the tendency to try to get too informal too quickly at times. So last name can help set that boundary. Not necessarily, because sometimes that can be a problem, but it can help, I find, to set boundaries properly.
Yeah, absolutely, and certainly there has been recent history of the church of not having proper boundaries.
Exactly.
And so stressing. I mean, again, I think that people don't want that the standoffishness. And I don't think people get that impression at all. But that's the fear I think that people sometimes have. Oh, now he's standoffish. No, it's good to have boundaries. And same thing with teachers. They usually go by their last names. You don't usually. Talk to your teacher with the first name or whatever. So I think it makes sense to me. But yes, I have heard people call you Father Nick or Hey Nick. Just yesterday we heard that.
We did.
Someone said, Hey, thanks Father Nick or whatever. So again, it's just kind of the preference of your name. My full name, I think I've talked about this before too, is Kenneth. Right, that's my full name. And if I went by Father Kenneth, I'm sure that people would shorten it to Father Ken all the time, and I've never been Ken, and I would not want that. So
I'm gonna go upstairs, and I'm a little worried about our windows upstairs.
Yes, me too. So you go first, and then I will do the same thing.
Yes. I'll be right back.
I found that picture, or I found a picture that is not the first choice that I had, because I had one from Debbie that I was going to show. But here's a shot of the parade. This is from Javine. I hope that's okay. You put it on Facebook. It doesn't show anybody personally there, but there's a nice long track there of the cars. Jay, do you want to come up and say a couple other things while want to come around with the camera?
Put me on the spot here.
That's right. So Jay, you're from the 11, is that right?
Yeah, I'm photographing for the 11 today. I'm a parishioner at Corpus Christi in Lawrence.
Okay.
So, hello everybody. Thanks for letting me be in here on the 4th.
That's right.
We're
glad. That's right. We're glad to have you with us, and so we don't generally have people hanging out in our house in this quarantine time, but they called us from the 11 and said, "Could we send over a photographer?" I said, "Sure." So,
well, thanks for having me.
No, he's got the masks and everything, and
this is to keep my germs off of them. I don't think they're gonna get me sick. This is to keep all of me in here. They don't want me breathing on them.
So if you're just tuning in right now, Father Ashmore has not changed.
It's not as far as I'm aware.
So, very good. So there is that photo there. And now I'm gonna go change my. I'm gonna go check my windows, and I'll be right back here. And so now you entertain people.
Okay. Yeah. So going on with that Father Ashmore, first name, Father Nicholas, or whatever. I think it's important too to recognize that people aren't coming to the priesthood to see me. This is a good way to put the emphasis back, not on me personally, but put it on the priesthood in general. Because there can be that temptation, especially as a priest, to think, oh, I help so many people. People come to me, they love listening to me, or I'm a good preacher. There can be that real temptation to put the emphasis on the individual, and taking a step back and not using the first name makes it less about me personally and more about the position. That people are coming not for Nicholas Ashmore, they're coming here for Father. I think that's an important distinction to make. When you do that, it does depersonalize me a little bit, and that's my intention. Not because I don't want you to know me, but because I don't want myself to get. I don't want myself to become stuck up. I don't want myself to be arrogant and think that the importance is put on myself. Yeah. So
But
just
I
a few
do.
thoughts.
I do.
Well, that's not necessarily.
Very good. So our windows are now closed. So that is good. Okay. So what other? When will we be featured in 11? I don't know. Is that this Friday?
Yeah, this is the next one.
Wow.
That's
Quick
why.
turnaround.
That's why he's here today. We got the call, I think, on Thursday or Friday, so got here as quick as possible.
What are people saying?
So, Don also reminds us it's not only Revenge of the Fifth and Father Ashmore's birthday, it's also Cinco de Mayo, so very good.
This is true. Which, a lot of Mexicans don't actually celebrate Cinco de Mayo.
They don't.
It's kind of an American celebration, which is strange.
Right, it's kind of like having corned beef and cabbage on St. Patrick's Day.
Right.
It's not an Irish thing, it's an
No.
Irish-American thing. So.
Exactly. And Mexican Independence Day is actually later.
September,
Isn't
I
it
believe.
September? Yeah.
I always
exactly.
forget that date. It's the date I should remember. But,
Mhm.
but yeah, and I have to review the history of Cinco de Mayo, but I think that it's not really a Catholic thing. In fact, I think it's kind of an anti-Catholic thing. If I were
Really?
I don't recall.
You always have to be really careful with that with Mexican history.
Right, because I think it's like celebrating the revolution or something that's
Some battle or something, I thought.
yeah. Well, yeah, I don't remember exactly. I have to. But yes, it is. I've been working in the Spanish-speaking community for a little over a decade now, and that has never been a big
Big
celebration.
deal.
I mean,
Yeah.
Our Lady of Guadalupe is big. A lot of the church celebrations, Independence Day, whenever that day is, that's a big day. But not
One interesting thing, I was talking to Miguel before Mass yesterday, and he
Yes,
asked me
right.
to mention that apparently in Mexico there is a local tradition of celebrating the Feast of the Cross or the Feast of the Holy Cross on the fourth Sunday, or it might be early May, the first Sunday of May, something around either the fourth Sunday of Easter or the first Sunday of May, but it's a celebration of workers. So celebration of workers and prayer for especially construction.
Right, the Feast of the Holy. It's Feast of the Holy Cross, and it might be May. It might be May 3rd.
Okay.
So in the United States, we celebrate that on
September?
September, whatever that day is, 15th or something like that. But it's interesting because if you look in the missal, which we used to use, now we have an official
American one.
Spanish missal for the United States. We had to use the Mexican one before, and then whenever we came upon that Feast of the Holy Cross, it was like, where's the readings? Oh, that's right, it's back into May. So,
Yeah.
I think it might be a day feast, like May 3rd.
Interesting.
Whatever, so.
Okay.
Yeah. But maybe if someone can clarify that for us. So it looks like. Let me know if you have any other questions here. Let me check out the tube here and see if there's anything over here. A couple guests. So it's a close race between Billie Jean and Bohemian Rhapsody.
Okay.
But I think
Both of them are really quite good. I have to say.
You could read them both, I suppose.
There could be a tie.
Yeah. So again, what are we talking about? Just tuning in. There is the sonnets of popular pop songs.
And rock songs.
Oh yeah,
popular songs.
Can you give us an example of one of those little clips that you saw there?
I could, yeah.
What we're talking about here?
Let me see. So here
'Cause you
is
had
one.
someone-
It has a picture of a Victorian lady looking quite fine with her fan, and it says, "If truly you did wish to win my hand, you should have graced it with a wedding band."
Which is what?
If you what? How does it go?
If you like it.
If you like it, then you should have put a ring on it. You know,
Put
for
a ring on
Beyonce,
from-
right?
Right.
But
So
if you truly did wish to win my hand, you should have graced it with a wedding band.
and it rhymes
Isn't
and everything.
that-
It's
isn't that-
amazing.
oh
So
my goodness!
tune
it's
in.
brilliant.
It's coming. It's coming.
It's
It's
brilliant.
Gonna be good. Okay, thank you, Molly. Cinco de Mayo, celebration of Mexico's victory over France in 1862. Very good. Thank you. Let's see here. Any other things to talk about? Do you have anything on your brain that you wanted to bring up?
Well, I mean, we were talking about morality there for a little bit. We could
Yes, we
return
can go
back to
back-
that,
yes.
but I'm not sure if there's any. Did you have any thoughts on what we were sharing?
Further thoughts? I don't think so. So we were talking about the Kantian idea of ethics and
Right.
the ought,
Mm-hmm.
and I do everything out of duty.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um,
So I think it's important to recognize that God created us for morality. So a lot of people, they have
the law of the
false-
Lord is perfect, etc. As the psalm
exactly,
says.
exactly. It revives the soul.
Yeah.
It revives it. It doesn't impose itself upon it. So this is something that's really important. If we're going to talk about morality, especially in our modern culture, we believe often in modernity and contemporary society that there is my human will, and my human will comes in contact with, like, it comes in contrast with the divine will. And we have like two competing freedoms in a certain way, and God wins because God is God and God wins. You know, and it becomes this competition of wills rather than the fact that God creates us for morality, and everything we are, it tends to morality in a certain way. Like we although there is sin in us, not sin in us in a certain way, yes, and speaking in a Pauline way, but although we have these certain sinful tendencies, that's not how we were really designed to function. And so when you are living a moral life, you're actually living in a way that your whole person is functioning perfectly. So you're going to be happier. You're going to have more peace. You're going to have everything in order together. So when we look at these other moral systems, Stoicism, it emphasizes that we should have no passions. Well, that's dumb in a certain way because we have passions. We have
Right.
emotions. It's part of who we are. If we're going to live morally, if we're going to live out of in union with God's will, then those passions should have a part to play, or else God wouldn't have given them to us.
Right.
Or we live in this world of deontology where we are working from oughts. Well, then you're getting this idea
that
of
word?
like ought.
No, not
Oh,
that word.
deontology. Yeah, deontology.
It's like the word of the day, deontology.
That's a moral system of Immanuel Kant. This idea that we have to be duty. Well, that you're enforcing an outside law on me. In that case, you know, I have this law of the duty that has really nothing to do with me. It's just what I ought to do at any particular moment. Well, that's, again, this competition of wills thing. The real morality of God has a connaturality. It works with nature. It works with us and brings us to our fulfillment. So it's important when we talk about these things to see that, you know, when we talk about saints, we're not talking about people who were acting contrary to their nature. We're talking about people who are being truly who they are. What does Ignatius of Antioch say? The glory of God is man fully alive.
Right.
Not the glory of God is man's passions utterly suppressed.
Yeah.
Or not freedom that has been nipped in the bud. No, it's freedom that's truly free.
Right.
So,
Good. Yeah, that's one of my favorite passages there of the glory of God is man fully alive. You know, I wish that there were a way to do that in inclusive language, but it doesn't. You know, that's...
Yeah, our English is impoverished in that way. English just doesn't have a good... it doesn't have a good third person singular neuter term. Because we have human, but we don't use human in that way.
Well, but see, what is so powerful about that statement, I think, and if you keep it as man, again, so I like to use inclusive language whenever possible, right? But sometimes it impoverishes the fuller meaning of what at least man used to mean, because it is, it's at the same time singular and plural and male and female. So the glory of God is man fully alive. What that it means to say... Because if you say the glory of God is a human being fully alive, well, that doesn't talk about humanity.
Right.
And if you say the glory of God is humanity fully alive, well, that doesn't talk about the individual. And also, when you talk about the man, that leads you to Jesus Christ as well, because he is the full glory. He is the glory of God revealed for us. So I just wanted to mention that as like someone saying, well, let me just say that differently. Well, you can't really say it differently because you lose some aspect or the other.
That,
so.
right. I know there was that discussion the other night on the Tuesday Night Live about, and on account, what is it? I saw this in the quote, propter nos homines, and on account of how do we say that?
For us men and for our salvation.
Yeah, for us men and for our salvation, he came down. The Latin is actually neuter there, so it's not male or female. It is actually a neuter, but we just don't have a way to say that in English.
Right.
That without being for us men and for our salvation, there's no way to say that. For us people, that's kind of, but it's not the same. It doesn't include human nature in that concept because personhood is different than humanhood. If that makes sense.
Sure, kind of. Might need to dive into that a little more.
Yeah, we can talk about that. What is a person? So the classic definition of what a person means is this is from Boethius. So this is a philosopher from the 7th and 8th century. This is the church has taken this up. Is an individual substance of an intellectual nature. So that means that a person, in a certain way, is a center of is the intellectual center of a person who can think in a certain way. So I'm sorry, I'm using the word person. I can't. It's hard to. The best definition is an intellectual substance of Pardon me. Darn it, I'm messing it up. I'm sorry. Is an individual substance of an intellectual nature. That's the best definition because it gets everything in there. But it means that that there's a person there who can think, who can feel, and it's the core of who they are. So that's what a person is. So God is a person, angels are persons,
right?
Demons are persons, and human beings are persons. Is there another person out there that I can?
What were the last two?
Human beings
and
demons.
Oh, demons.
Are
persons. Okay, I thought you said humans and human beings. I'm like, wait a minute, what's the difference between a human and a human being?
No. Demons and human beings.
Got it.
So I mean, all those things are persons. So when we talk about persons in general, it's actually it's a less of a specific theological term than when we say humanity.
Sure.
So we could say something like but once you get there, it says propter nos homines, and that means on account of nos, us, homines, mankind. But then how do you say that? For us, mankind? It just, in English, there's not a good way to translate that.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I think we try to be. I mean, as Don was mentioning that we are lagging a little behind on inclusive language. I agree, and I think we can use inclusive language whenever possible. But we also need to be. We also don't want to impoverish the thought to be inclusive, I guess, when maybe we need to rethink what we are talking about of inclusivity. And so,
right. We have to remember that words have meanings.
Right.
And I know that sounds like a really simple statement, but words have meanings. You can't just change a word and be like, oh, but it means the same thing. No, because that's a different word. It has a different meaning.
Right.
And sometimes words have webs of meaning too. And so sometimes you think, well, why don't we just change this language to this language? It would mean the same thing. It might mean almost the same thing, but it may not mean the same thing unless we work it really carefully.
Right.
And so it's really easy for people to say things like, oh, we need to use more inclusive language, but never actually put thought to what the implications to that are. It's a lot more complex than that.
Right.
Because words have particular meanings. So I'm not saying we shouldn't be more inclusive. I don't have anything,
right.
You know what I mean? The Latin there is inclusive to both male and female. That's how it works.
But does the English allow us to do that?
Exactly.
I mean, a good example would be like we can say brothers and sisters instead of brothers because that's pretty much what it is meaning by his brothers and sisters, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Except in particular circumstances when Paul is directly speaking to a group of men.
Yeah.
And then you have to be careful about that too. So.
Exactly. And so you would get to where the original text is being betrayed by our inclusive language.
Right. So you have to be careful there.
Exactly. So it's a lot more complicated than that. And I think it's important not to read with a hermeneutics of offensivity or
sure.
We automatically assume that the lens through which we're reading it is a lens through which it was written. And that's important not to do, because sometimes we're bringing our own things to a discussion, like not wanting to be excluded.
Sure.
But that's not even a conception in the original thought, because the language in the original thought is inclusive in and of itself.
Right.
And so saying, like in Spanish, you can say hermanos.
Right.
And that means men and women. That means brothers and sisters. Hermanos. Sometimes people do hermanos y hermanas, but that's not really necessary in the language, because there's that conception that is both a male term, but it's also a whole conceptual term.
Sure, to play devil's advocate, some people might say, well, that's because the language hasn't advanced yet like it should, like we should be doing, like we're doing in English, the Spanish should do the same thing, because yes, brothers used to mean that too, and so...
But you're also taking, in that case, you're also taking two different languages and pitting them against each other.
Sure.
English has never, in the same way as Spanish, had masculine and feminine.
That's true. That's a good point.
And so to say that Spanish should function in the same way as English is pitting two different systems against each other.
Yes,
Because the English generally is a neuter language.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. You don't look at a door and say, that's a feminine thing. But that is a grammatical that's again, we're getting on my pet peeves here, so I have to be careful. But people assume that grammatical gender is the same thing as biological sex. That there's actually a feminine thought to the fact that it's a door. No, it's a way of dividing grammar up. You know what I mean? It's a way of...
It's la puerta. That's feminine, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So
la mesa.
Mm-hmm. So I guess all these things are to say, like, these conversations are a lot more complex than they seem initially. Because it can be really easy to put that hermeneutics of suspicion on this. Hermeneutics, I'm sorry, that's another...
Yeah, that's a big word.
Hermeneutics.
We got all these new words today.
Yeah.
Deontology?
Deontology, hermeneutics. Hermeneutics means the interpretive lens, essentially.
So how do you read something? I come into this text reading it this way. I mean, that's important. Like for the Bible study, we've been reading St. Paul, and sometimes people will read St. Paul as being anti-woman or something, or we were talking about Matthew the other day about how being anti-Jewish, and it's like, no, you got to understand what's the lens, what's the context of where he's coming from. Don't jump to, I read this now in my language at this time, and I say, oh, he was clearly sexist or he was clearly racist.
That doesn't mean he's not. I'm not saying about that, Paul. I don't want to just say we need to automatically assume there's not any racist or sexist inclinations, but we have to respect the text.
We have to say, wait, let's pause and let's look at it. And there might have been some racism things there, or sexism things, or whatever. But let's make sure we read the text and jump at and understand it first.
Exactly. You know? And that's why studying is a lot harder than what people make it out to be. Because sometimes people want easy answers, and easy answers often aren't good answers. So,
all right. Well, we are running out of time, but it's sonnet time. Stop. Sonnet time. So let's jump over to our Ashcam here, and I think Bohemian Rhapsody is the winner.
Okay.
But you might throw in a bonus of Billie Jean because people seem to really enjoy that one too. Where did my Ashcam thing go?
I don't know.
Oh dear. We got a major problem.
We can probably go without it.
No, no, we will not.
Okay.
Let me just duplicate that, and now I'm going to type. Just give me a second.
Okay,
You get your Bohemian Rhapsody ready.
I'm ready.
I'll get the cam ready here. All right, but our Ashcam is also a little. There we go.
Okay.
It's gonna be better.
Are we better?
Well, I think so. Here we go. Time for the Ashcam. This is Bohemian Rhapsody, usually done by Queen, now done by Shakespeare, read by Father Ashmore.
Okay.
So.
Could you?
I guess.
I need to
get into your queeniness.
Is this the waking world, or do I sleep? I find I can't be roused to my dismay. But you should not for this delinquent weep, for I'm a brute whose soul's been tossed away. O mother sweet, I bring thee news of dread, my life's at end, for I've another slain. I press my crossbow up against his head and loosed its bolt away into his brain. But hark, I see a dark and ghostly form amidst the lightning launched by Jove on high. The cries for mercy, silenced by the storm, are futile. I'll not be released, but die. My fate now sealed, 'tis plain for all to see. The wind's direction matters not to me.
I love it. I love it. It's
so
great.
I think that Billie Jean's a little better. So we'll read Billie Jean.
Okay, here comes Billie Jean, read in a Shakespearean sonnet style. Billie Jean by Michael Jackson, usually, not usually by Shakespeare.
Right. The memory of her face shall long persist, for she could be the queen of beauty crowned. But I'll remember more how she'd insist I was the one who danced within the round. The scene she caused made people turn their heads as she her name in slanders did impart. It called to mind advice I once heard said to act with caution round young ladies' hearts. My mother, too, had shared her deep chagrin that lies can swift be seen as gospel truth. And so I swear she ne'er my lover been, and I am not the father of this youth. No carnal act between us hath transpired, therefore this kid is not a son I've sired.
Wait, do that again. That's the best line. And you did quick.
No carnal act between us hath transpired, therefore this kid is not a son I've sired.
Isn't
that hilarious?
It is hilarious.
Oh my
I
goodness.
love it. So very good. Well, thanks for tuning in today. Those are the sonnets. Maybe we'll have a couple more of those to celebrate your birthday tomorrow. It's good stuff there. So I hope that everyone has a wonderful 4th of May. Happy May the 4th. I forgot to mention also that I have my Star Wars socks on that my mom gave me. So that was for Christmas. So happy Star Wars Day. May the 4th be with you always and with your loved ones.
Thank you all very much. God
Thank
bless
you.
you all.